Hello, everyone. Eric from Helps Law Firm. Good to have you here. Helps for Seniors. My name's Eric Olsen, attorney now for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm. We have two missions. Number one is we protect seniors from debt collector harassment. Our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. And we have this YouTube live video that you can look at Monday through Thursday. Okay, 10 o'clock Western Pacific time, 11 o'clock Mountain, 12 Central, and 1 o'clock Eastern time. Welcome. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature. Try to answer them for you. You should be able to answer them. The first one I've got written down here is some guy emailed us and he said, just inquiring, very skeptical. So, occasionally we'll talk to people, and if they're skeptical about Helps and what we do, what I do is I ask them, I'll send them an email. We have a form email, I call it a general email, that is linked to our YouTube page, our web page. You can spend hours on our web page. You could spend hours watching our YouTube videos, and you can watch the comments. Or you could just Google Helps Law Firm and look at the comments or the reviews and stuff. There's plenty of information on the internet to get familiar with Helps and what we do. So if you have any hesitancy about who we are and how we help people, check us out. Okay, we don't want anyone to be skeptical about us. Okay, because there's plenty of information about what we do, and it's positive information. Okay, there's really not any negative information about Helps. There might be a couple things, but I don't know what those are. There's probably a story behind those, but what we do is people find out about us. We give them complete information. There almost seems to be a plan by debt collectors and creditors to keep correct information from seniors about their financial rights, especially the fact that their income is protected, how it's protected in their bank account. And that's what we educate seniors, that why your income is protected and how you can stop collectors from harassing you so you don't have to deal with the debt. Okay? So this guy that was just inquiring, very skeptical, I'm sure we sent him an email and tell him to check us out some more and then call back. Occasionally I'll talk to someone and they might hesitate. I'll say, hey, wait a minute. Let me send you an email. You check us out and then call back. Because when people call us, we ask them basic questions about their situation to be able to tell them what their options are. We don't give legal advice, we give legal information. Because the information we give to you is pretty basic, okay? And it's pretty important if you're a senior struggling with debt. If you're a senior struggling with debt, or you're disabled, you don't necessarily have to be a senior. You have to be receiving protected income like Social Security, disability income, a pension. Okay, your income is safe. Even if someone were to sue you, they can't garnish or take that money. And there was a federal law put in effect in 2012 that instructs banks to automatically protect twice the amount of your federal benefit deposited in your bank account from garnishment, regardless of what funds are in there or where they came from. So we're here to give you correct information. So glad to have you here. Thanks for your support. We always ask our clients to share what Helps says with others. Press the like button if you like us. Subscribe to our channel. More people that like us and subscribe to our channel, Google gets that information out more to seniors that need this help. Okay? If a senior receives $580 a month from Social Security and won't have to file income taxes, will they have to file taking money out during the year from an annuity? It depends on how much you take out. If you take out under a certain amount, you shouldn't have to file taxes. All you have to do is Google, do I have to file income taxes? And you'll get on the IRS website, and they explain pretty basically when you would have to file a tax return. But a lot of times you probably won't need to, okay? In fact, I'm going to talk about someone today that I talked to. Maybe they're listening. I think I enrolled them. I'll skip ahead to this one. A nice woman called from Texas, married. Had I think had 20,000 in debt. She had some more medical debt on top of that. Her only income was $1,200 in Social Security. Husband married her for the last 8 years, and her husband had not filed taxes since 2011, if I remember right. And she was really worried that she was going to be responsible for his taxes. And I explained to her, I said, you don't have to file taxes with your husband. You don't have to file taxes at all because your only income is Social Security. If he's going to file taxes, he can file married singly. You don't have to sign on his taxes, be responsible for it. But even if you were, your only income is $1,200. The IRS would never come after you, but you don't need to worry about. You don't have to file taxes. You're not going to be responsible for his taxes, even though you're married. You're not required to file with your husband or your wife. If you're married, you can file married singly. You don't have to file married jointly. So I told her that. Don't need to worry about your taxes. She had signed up with Beyond Finance. Now, who's Beyond Finance? They're one of the gazillion debt management companies or debt settlement companies. It's the latest scam out there when it comes to seniors. Anyone wants to make money, they start a debt management company. And one thing these companies don't do, with rare exception, is they won't tell a senior, by the way, nice lady from Texas who's, I think, 70 years old, you don't need our help because all your income is protected. You don't need to pay this debt. Instead, they enrolled her, got her making monthly payments for debt she can't afford to pay. And she doesn't need to pay. And did they ever tell her that her income was protected and she didn't need to pay the debt? Absolutely not. They would have told her that, she wouldn't have enrolled with them. Instead, they sign seniors up and withhold the most important information a senior needs to know, is that their income's protected, they don't need to pay this debt. And that there's a means to stop debt collectors from harassing them. That's what HELPS does. When people find out about us, they enroll in HELPS. We send out what's called a cease and desist letter under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, passed in the year I graduated from law school, 1978, ages ago, it seems like yesterday. Provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send demand letters. They might have to leave you alone. So people find out about HELPS, they enroll, they give us the creditors they don't want to pay money to or debt collectors. All we need is the name, address, account number. We don't need the balance. And we send out a cease and desist letter out to those different creditors or collectors. And they're going to leave you alone. They're going to contact us and not you. You might get sued. Don't need to worry about it. If you're sued, we send a letter to the attorney who sued you. We let them know your income is protected. Can't pay the debt. You're not going to do anything. You don't need to go to court. And then you're going to call us. We're going to explain why you don't need to go to court, why your income is protected, why you don't need to worry. And if you have any questions at all, you call us. That's what HELPS is for. When people enroll in HELPS, you're a client ongoing. It's not just one time, literally forever. So if you're worried or scared or have a question, pick up the phone and call us, no matter how often. That's the magic of HELPS. We're not a one-time representation for you. And then when you enroll in HELPS, maybe 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 7 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a very minimal amount. And you can call us as often as you need to. Okay? So we don't want you to worry. Ms. H has a question. I want to understand about the 1099 I got this year. Will that affect me next year when I file my taxes? Yes, I still work and I do file taxes. I don't make a lot. I don't make a lot to pay taxes on. Well, it's called a 1099-C. What that is that's a form. If you don't pay a debt, it's over I think $600. Technically, a creditor is required to send that to IRS saying, when they write off the debt, when they say they're not able to collect it anymore. They can still try to collect it, but they'll usually assign it to someone else. But they'll send a notice. They can send a notice to the IRS saying, hey, this person borrowed this money, they never paid us, and this notice lets the IRS know that that should be counted as income to you since you never paid it. Okay? Doesn't mean they still can't try to collect the debt. They can. Now, is the IRS going to do anything about it? Probably not. I'll explain why. If you're not required to file taxes, you probably just disregard it, okay? Because IRS doesn't follow up on those. I mean, if they were to ask you to, you could do it, but they're not going to do that. Now, if you are required to file taxes, there's a form called 982. If your debt exceeds your assets, which is the case for many of our clients, then there's a box you check at the beginning. I think it's the second box, says that you're insolvent and there's no tax debt. No taxes need to be paid. Now, if there was taxes and you have modest or lower income, you can often qualify to get on what's currently not collectible status, so you don't have to pay the taxes. We have email that explains how to do that. So, we just don't run into a problem with our seniors that owe debt who gets a 1099-C from a creditor having a tax problem with the IRS. You can always talk to us, call us on the phone, we'll go over it with you. So John here asked, I received a notice of dismissal without prejudice from the Circuit Court of the State of Oregon. Letter came from Johnson Mark. Okay, so what that means is this. You got sued, John. And maybe you got that letter to HELPS, and we sent a letter to the attorney that sued you, letting them know that your income and Social Security is protected, can't afford to pay it. And maybe they decide, hey, it's not worth our effort. We're just going to dismiss the case. And that's what they've done. And when it says they dismiss it without prejudice, that means that they always do it that way. That means legally they could file the lawsuit later on. Okay. Unlikely they would do that. It doesn't matter if they do. Does that mean that if you've been sued, that if we send a letter out to a creditor who sued you, that they're going to dismiss the case? They could, but probably not. It's the exception, but it doesn't matter. Even if they sued you and got a judgment, your income's protected, your assets are going to be protected, you're going to be okay. Okay? Don't need to worry. So let me back up here. This person contacts us from Texas, and they say, I guess it's a note from one of our paralegals on a conversation. It says, the person was talking with her friend who is a current HELPS client and mentioned she was, oh yeah, I remember reading this one, and that she was struggling with her credit card payments. Her friend referred her to us because she only has Social Security income, and it turns out that the next day, this person that called her friend was served for the same credit card debt they were talking about. So she took it as a sign to call HELPS. It says, we discussed HELPS and how it all works. That's what the paralegal put down. The lawsuit process and how to send it and the info. She was very thankful, and it looks like she enrolled in HELPS. Yeah. Yeah, we do ask that you share what we do with others, and you can listen to our videos and we'll answer your questions. You can put them in the chat feature. We want you to not worry. Want you to feel okay. Okay. So this person contacts us from Colorado. Okay. It's a little bit complicated. But their only income was $2,200 in Social Security. Home was worth about $400,000. She owed $350,000. I talked to this person on Friday. So she had a little bit of equity in the home. It could have been worth a little bit more than $400,000, but I'm just saying $400,000 for now. And she will be getting a small inheritance down the road, maybe $5,000 to $10,000. She got free and clear car, and she got $80,000 in debt. But the house payment is $2,200, essentially what her Social Security is that she's getting. What to do? Okay, and I believe she's been sued too. Yeah. So every state has what's called exemption laws that protect a certain amount of equity in a home. Colorado's exemption, I believe, is like 150,000. So she has a lot of, you know, her home's not at risk. But the problem is if they sue her and they get a judgment, the judgment can become a lien on the home. How do you get the lien off? Well, it depends on the state. Some states, there's a process for getting the lien removed easily. In some states, the only way to get a lien removed is by filing a bankruptcy. And in some states, the lien doesn't even attach. But in Colorado, the only way to get a lien removed would be by filing a bankruptcy. And she was sued for about $10,000. But she can't really afford to stay in the home because her only income is $2,200 in Social Security, and that's what the house payment is. But if I remember right, she kind of wanted to move. She was thinking about moving down to Arizona where one of her daughters is, and that housing there would be cheaper. So she had some decisions to make. One decision we talked about was, if the home is worth about $400,000 and she sold it, real estate commission is going to be like plus closing costs is going to be about 8%. So if you take 8% of $400,000, that's like what was that, $32,000? And if they owe $350 on it, time you pay the real estate commission, you would hardly get anything out of it. I told her one thing you could do is just stay in the home, not make a payment, save up the money, and just let it go back in foreclosure. You might be able to live in the home for a year and a half before it gets foreclosed on. So, those are kind of things we talk with seniors about what their options are. I think she was thinking about maybe going back to work, which she could. She could go back to work uh, and get a little bit extra money so she could afford to stay in the home. But we go over those things with people that call us. So Bald says, I'm on Social Security disability. I'm getting served with legal papers today via FedEx. Well, usually that's not a legal way to serve you, but maybe in some states they can do it that way, but normally that's not. But if you're getting Social Security disability, you don't need to worry. They can't touch it. As long as you keep the balance in your bank account into which Social Security is deposited less than twice the amount of Social Security you get each month, that sum will be protected automatically by your bank or credit union, regardless if there's other monies in there or where they came from. Okay? Has anyone heard of collection agencies sending legal documents through FedEx? No, I haven't heard of that. I'm not saying that they couldn't do that. Sometimes they might get a special order from the court saying, we want permission to serve this person. We tried to serve him in other ways. We're going to serve him this way, that way. And one of the ways we're going to try to serve him is with FedEx. And court could have allowed that to happen. But once again, you're on Social Security disability. It doesn't matter how you're served, or even if they do it wrong, they can't collect from you. Okay? Some people get worked up because maybe they don't even owe the debt. It's a mistake. But their only income is Social Security disability, but the cost to defend the lawsuit would more than what the debt is, and they couldn't afford an attorney to represent them, and they don't want to do it themselves. So for a lot of reasons, you may not even have to worry about it. Okay? And I'm glad to go over that with anyone. Eric Letter says I must sign the back of the document, mail it back to them. There's nowhere to sign. Do I have to do this? I don't know. I haven't seen it. I kind of doubt you do. I will be 62 in January. Can you still help someone my age? Absolutely. You know, HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors, but we help anyone of any age. It's dependent on what your source of income is. If you're getting Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefit, you can be younger than 62 and still be getting disability or Social Security. You get Social Security disability. Or or maybe you're still working, but you know, you're going to be retiring here really quick. No, we can still help you. Give us a call. We'll be glad to talk to you about this. Okay, Tiger Eye says, I'm a member of HELPS. American Express keeps calling me daily. I filed a complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Tiger Eyes, applies to debt collectors, not original creditors, except in 7 states. So it's not technically against the law for an original creditor to still try to reach out and contact you. Now, it's our practice with HELPS. We send a letter to an original creditor, and they're going to stop calling you, with rare exception. I'm talking about a credit card company, including American Express. So you would need to get a hold of us again, and we'll send a second letter. Now, um, they can still send you a bill or a statement. If you don't want to get the bill or statement, you can have it do a change of address, or you go to your name, care of HELPS with our address, or you can just throw it in the garbage can. But it's not against the law technically for an original creditor to still call you on the phone. Okay. Um, Normally, when they get a letter from HELPS, they're going to stop doing that. And then the next question is, how long ago did we send the letter? If you just enrolled with HELPS 2 or 3 weeks ago, you know, it's going to take them a week to get the letter, maybe another week or so to process it. So we tell our clients that communication is usually going to stop within 2 to 4 weeks. You know, just because you enroll in HELPS doesn't mean that, you know, you still could be getting calls a week or 2 weeks down the road. I mean, it takes a while for them to process it. So how will that work? Bald Thomas asked. Will the bank give me a letter in the mail saying they were served with a garnishment? Maybe. This rule went into effect that protects money in your bank account back in 2012. It took a while for the banks and credit unions to get on board. Credit unions took longer than the banks. A lot of the banks have a form letter they send out to the creditor who did the garnishing, the judgment holder who did the garnishing, that says, hey, all this person's money is protected, and they send you a copy of that and explain to you why your money's about the garnishment and what they've done. Okay. So will they send you a letter saying you were garnished? It depends. They may or they may not. But the thing about it is, if you have twice less of federal benefits, the garnishment isn't going to take place. They technically have 48 hours to examine your account to determine where the money came from. And I always tell people they do that within 4 to 8 minutes. 4 to 8 minutes. Although someone last week told me they did it within 2 minutes. The only time we ever run into a problem is on the weekend. Sometimes if the bank gets a writ of garnishment on Friday afternoon, they may not bother to look at it till Monday, and so your debit card could get held up on the weekend. Okay, and then people will call us Monday all upwrought, and I'll say, just be patient and call. You know, they're going to release the money, and I never get a call back because they get the money released. But if there is a problem, we would take care of it. But there isn't like there used to be. The law's been in effect now since what, 2012, 15 years, 10, 13 years. Okay. Um, you can call and talk to us, Tiger Eyes. Technically, uh, you don't need to answer the call if they call. Uh, if you're in there are 7 states that have taken the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and apply it to original creditors as well. And if you live in one of those states, theoretically, the American Express could be sued for violating the law. So Pastor says, the original debt collectors did stop with your letter. Now I await the collection agencies that will buy the charge-offs. That's one reason why it helps why our representation is ongoing, because, you know, if you don't pay a debt, then a creditor or collector may assign it to a new different collection agency. You may get a new notice 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. You get that to us, we'll send a cease and desist letter out to that new debt collector. Most important thing is that if you're worried or scared, you pick up the phone and you call, and we'll explain why you don't need to be worried and scared. Okay? So once in a while, I'll talk to Tiger Eyes for a second here. Yeah, if you owe money to a creditor, like maybe a payday loan, a payday loan could be based on an Indian reservation or overseas. They can't be sued, and so they can break the law, and they might just ignore our letter and still try to call you. Or you might get some, maybe a person may have a whole lot of debt, and they get a bunch of crazy debt collectors, and some of them are scammers. If you were really, really upwrought about phone contact, you could, change your phone number. You get a different phone number, they don't have access to it. But that's the exception. That's very rare that someone would need to do that. So my account could get held up on the weekends. Uh, that's almost like me saying, if I go outside when it's cloudy, I could get hit by a bolt of lightning. Yeah, I suppose it's the odds, the stars would have to align. It's very rare that this happens because we've got thousands of clients. They'd have to sue you, get a judgment, and I wouldn't really worry about that. Okay. But that's the problem. Sometimes I will say things and it'll be something on the fringe, and people grab onto that and will worry about that. Well, so I try to avoid that. I don't like to talk about things that are so unlikely to happen. That's the problem with the law. There's a lot of attorneys out there that give advice to people based on the principle that you could hit by a bolt of lightning if you walk out when there's clouds, or if you're going to Circle K on Friday night at 10 o'clock, you could get hit by a drunk driver. We don't live our lives worrying about things that are so unlikely to happen. And if one of those things did happen, we would know what to do. So I don't want you to be worrying about things that are just not going to happen. Social Security is backing off student loans. Yeah, what James is saying is that the Department of Education last week announced that they're going to temporarily put a stop on trying to offset 15% of Social Security for past due student loans. I'm not sure if New Jersey has that law. What about Amscot loan? I don't know who Amscot loan is, but I don't care who it is. If you owe a debt to a debt creditor or whoever it is, your income is protected, whoever they are. I don't care what their name is. Okay, this guy calls us from Colorado, and he says, I have disability for severe hearing loss. Anyway, the collection agency is finally suing me. Have you ever heard of MCM? Yeah, I have. Well, I'm reaching out because I heard many times that Social Security is protected for 2 months from garnishment. Well, good for you. I just want to know what I should do or not to worry. I don't know if I should read them or throw them away. Well, you can probably throw them away, because if you're being sued and your only income is Social Security, you keep twice the amount in there, then if you get sued, you don't need to file a response. They can get a judgment, but they can't collect from you. If you're a helps client, you get us a copy of the lawsuit. We don't need the full thing, just the first 2 or 3 pages. And we'll send a letter to the attorney who sued you, let him know that your income is protected and you can't pay the debt. And we're going to call you, explain why you don't need to worry, why you don't need to go to court. We'll send you emails that talk about the same thing. Who hasn't heard about the 1090-C possibility the IRS might deem my default debt as taxable income? That could lead to big trouble, right? Back up the video and listen to me earlier. I answered that question. And I went into that question in detail on February 9th, I think 2 or 3 years ago with my former partner, Rex Staines. Okay? That you can look at on YouTube Live. You can go back, YouTube Live, February 9th, not this year or the year before, but the year before that. And if it's not on that day, it's on the year before that. No, you're not going to have a problem with the 1099-C. Person writes in, I get Social Security widow's benefits. Can it be garnished? No. I have a lot of medical debt, over 40,000. Don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. Don't want you to worry. So this was a comment on one of the videos, either a video, one of our videos, or a video we did with senior living. Seniors still need to have decent credit of 675 and above for apartment rental, buying a car, utilities. A low credit score is much more costly overall. So this is my brief response, and then I'll add to it. I said, oh, I guess I didn't put the response down. But what I said is, for some seniors, the choice is between paying the debt and keeping their credit up, and then going without food or medicine or utilities. Okay? And so if your credit gets a hit, how's that going to affect? A lot of seniors can't afford to buy a car. Or if they're going to get a car, maybe they save up and get something for cash that's affordable. And as far as utilities, a utility company isn't going to, they don't do a credit report. If you move and you sign up, they have to give you the utility. It's not going to affect your being able to get a utility. And as far as an apartment rental is concerned, well, one thing you can rebuild your credit. We have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score that when clients have been part of Helps for 90 days, it's free. It's a free program how to build your credit. But we also have what's called a landlord letter that we'll give to any senior, whether they're a member of Helps or not, that explains to a prospective landlord that even though this senior may have a hit on their credit for whatever reason, all their income, their Social Security, their pension, is protected, is available, will be available to pay their rent. See, a lot of landlords don't understand the fact that your income is protected. And we give this to seniors they can show to a prospective landlord before they pay an application fee. And the landlord can, if they understand that, then they can rent you the place. See, the landlord is worried that your money could be taken from you and that you wouldn't be able to pay the rent. But if you're a senior, it can't be taken from you. It'll be available to pay the rent. A lot of lenders don't know that, and this letter informs them of that fact. So we'll give that to anyone whether they're a member of Helps or not. So you understand, Stoneman here, how the 1099-C isn't going to be a problem? No way. See, if your income is just Social Security, for example, you're not required to file tax returns. And even if you are required to file tax returns, if your debt exceeds your assets, uh, there's a form you can file, 982, check off the second box. It says you're insolvent. There's no tax. But even if you did end up owing taxes, if you're modest or lower income, you can often qualify to get on currently not collectible with the status with the IRS. So you shouldn't need to worry about this. Video not available. Well, I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to make that video available. Do you remember? Well, I'll look it up. This person contacts us from Florida saying, I'm struggling with debt settlement payments. I need some advice. Well, if you're a senior and you're signed up with debt settlement or debt management, you don't need to pay them anymore. What first thing I'm going to ask you is when you enrolled with them, did they tell you, by the way, you don't need our help because all your income is protected? If the answer is no, they didn't tell me that, that's because they're scammers. They withheld the most important information you deserve to know. Fact is that your income is protected and that you don't need to pay the debt, and there's a means to stop the creditors from harassing you. But if they would have told you that, you wouldn't have signed up with them, and they wouldn't be making money off you. Okay. Okay. This person contacts us and they say, "What about your spouse? Are they accountable or responsible?" Um, so if you incurred a debt, you're married, and it's just in your name and not your spouse's name, like a credit card debt, does that mean if you don't pay it, are they going to come after your spouse? No. Now, some people might say, well, Eric, in a community property state, the spouse could be is responsible for the debt. That may be true, but it's not the practice of consumer creditors, even if they sue you, to go after a spouse. They just don't do it. Credit card companies, if you sign up for the credit card only yourself, not your spouse, they're not going to come after your spouse. They don't do that. Now, if it's a community property states, there's 7 community property states in the United States. Theoretically, they could do that, but it's not their practice to do that for a lot of different reasons. Okay. What constitutes a senior? Seems to go. Okay. So I once again, although the name of helps is help eliminate legal problems for seniors, we help anyone of any age. It depends on the source of your income. If it's protected income like Social Security, disability, you could be in your 30s or 40s getting Social Security, disability. It's protected. Or a pension, you don't have to be, you could maybe getting a pension at age 50 or 55, you know. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It's just dependent on the source of your income. Although the vast majority of clients that we help obviously are seniors. Okay, Farmhouse asked, I joined helps last week. They wrote the creditors and to my Bank of America. Bank of America is trying to get the judge to sign an order for a weekly payment to the law firm. Will they try to levy my account? Well, a judge can't order you to make a weekly payment to the law firm. That's not what a judge. The judges don't have any really responsibility in trying to enforce a debt. All they do is determine that you owe the debt. It's up to the attorney to try to collect. Okay, so a judge can't order you to pay a debt. They don't do it. Anyone says they do, they don't know what they're talking about. No, there's no. Will they try to levy my account? Well, if you get Social Security, Farmhouse, as long as you keep the balance in there less than twice the amount of Social Security you get each month, your bank is going to protect that sum, even if some of the money in there came from another source. So if you got 1,500 in Social Security, times 2 would be 3,000 protected in your bank account from garnishment. Now, if you happen to have more than that in there, and it came from a protected source like Social Security or pension, the excess could be held up. Doesn't mean it's still not protected. It is protected, just not protected automatically. You'd have to file what's called a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption to get that money released. We help people do that. Most of the time, people tell me, well, Eric, I never have more than twice the amount of my Social Security in my account. Then you don't have anything to worry about. And are they going to garnish you? Probably not. Try to garnish your account. They'd have to know where you work, okay, or they'd have to know where your bank at, and that's not easily available. But as long as, and then first they have to get a judgment. Uh, they have to sue you, then get a judgment, know where you work. But then even then, twice the amount is protected automatically. So if you got true 12, that means what? 40, $4,224 is protected automatically in your bank account. Okay, here's someone from Oregon. Hi, sirs. He says, I went today to sign up for a bankruptcy. Imagine my surprise. I laughed when I read this one. When he said, I didn't need to file. Then he showed me your video. I was so excited and felt like a burden was lifted. Thank you, Nancy Carp. You know why I laughed? You know who showed him that video? My little brother. I started a really large firm that filed tens of thousands of bankruptcy. It's still in existence. And my little brother, when I left the firm, I started Helps in 2012 and then left the firm in 2015 to run Helps full time, and turned over to my little brother. And now they've got, I don't know, over a dozen attorneys. They're really big. They file around a quarter of the bankruptcies in the whole state of Oregon, and they're very good. And I'm pretty sure, based on this person, they said they were in, I don't know what sound they were, but if that attorney showed her a video, I'm pretty sure it was my little brother showed it to her. He's 14 years younger than me. I hired him out of law school. And he's a good attorney. Um, it could have been another attorney, but I kind of doubt it. Great Thanks Helps wrote to all the creditors fast. Our goal is to send a letter out within 24 to 48 hours when we get the credit. We get them out fast. This technology nowadays is amazing. You know, our letters go out automatically. We just put them in a system and it gets sent by a company that sends them out automatically. One's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast, so boom, it gets fast. This person contacts us from Pennsylvania. I am a recent enrollee in your program. I owe more than my house is worth. My only income is Social Security and a very small monthly pension. I have no assets. Would I be considered judgment proof if in a possible lawsuit? Yes. Would my status be uncollectible? Yes. There is no status that puts on paper anywhere that says judgment proof or uncollectible. It's just kind of like a nebulous state that a person's in. I expect the cost of food and oil, gas to reach all-time highs, including utilities, which will increase my monthly expenses greatly. Yeah, you don't need to worry. I mean, you don't worry about the old debt. If you're sued, you're not going to have to go to court. You're going to be fine. Okay? CK asks, can you stop paying a loan just after 3 months, or would it be considered fraud? So sometimes when I tell people, or videos, I'll say, we help people resolve old debt. Okay, the definition of an old debt for Helps is it can be a minute old. Doesn't matter. We get a lot of clients call us. Maybe 1 out of 5 is being sued. Maybe 1 out of 5 is being sued. 3 or 4 behind creditors are harassing them. Maybe 1 out of 5 is they're completely current on everything. They finally realize they cannot pay the debt anymore. And that means they may have incurred some debt last month, and they finally have gotten through. I can't do this. They find about Helps. They call us. It doesn't matter how old the debt is. It's not fraud. Okay. Okay. Fraud there's fraud is kind of one of those words that can mean a whole lot of things. There's criminal fraud, there's civil fraud. Uh, you know, not having a debt that you don't pay and you just incurred the debt a month ago. That's not criminal fraud. It's not even civil fraud. So no, don't worry about that. There's even if the debt was fraudulent, if term fraud, your Social Security, your pension is still protected. There's no exception. Okay. If they sued you and they sued you based on saying it was fraudulently incurred, that would never happen. But let's say they did that and they had a debt saying that you fraudulently incurred this debt. Your Social Security is still protected. So is your pension. Okay. They can't take it from you. Okay. The only exception is going to be past due child support, uh, maybe taxes, but then you can get on income-based repayment plan or currently not collectible. Okay. Right now, student loans have stayed. They're not going to offset money for a past due student loan. Then the only other debt that you'd have a problem with is some other federal agency like the Farm Home Administration or Rural Development Corporation or SBA, Small Business Administration. But they can do a set off of 15% of Social Security, but that's very rare. But you call and talk to us about that. We tell you what to do. So um, it doesn't matter how old the debt is. You don't have to sit around and wait 3 months before you call help. So you can call us immediately. I needed a medical procedure and a bit desperate. Understand that. And you don't have to pay net credit at all. Call and talk to us. I talked with a Connecticut attorney that was freeing, uh, and he told me to sell my house and move to senior housing. Didn't even mention the Social Security protections. Uh, the law is a pretty big thing. There's a lot of different laws, and kids that go to law school, you all you do is learn how to think in law school. They don't teach you the technicalities of the law. You learn that after you become an attorney. Because of that, there's a lot of attorneys that, there's a lot of things I don't understand about areas of law that I never have to deal with. And the same thing, a lot of things that I talk about, a lot of attorneys never deal with it. So yeah, you got to be careful on who you go to get advice or get information in this area. Okay. Yeah, a lot of these credit card company or these lenders and stuff, or collection agencies, they count on seniors not understanding their rights. They want you scared. Okay. So this person calls us from New York. In particular, I need advice regarding a business account with Amex, American Express, that is 3 months past due. I contacted them along the way, but what they offered me wasn't affordable. I am the sole proprietor of a business, and up to date, American Express has never shown up on my credit reports. Once they cancel the card, I'm assuming it will. Uh, Debt with them is $36,000. It's maybe it's a corporate card, but you guaranteed the card, so that way they don't report it on your personal credit report, but they do report it on the corporation. But you guaranteed the debt. I kind of doubt it'll show up on your credit report because I wouldn't expect it would. But anyway, let me go on. Discussing this is my most immediate need. It has been many, many years since I made any late payments to anyone, but we are having real hard times. To add to the stress, we are currently looking to move to a more affordable place this summer. We have um, Social Security, pensions, and IRA is down to 4,000. Together, our monthly income is approximately, it looks to be a little bit over $5,000. My other half and I are not married, but uh, we've been together for 34 years. Okay. Well, okay, the Social Security and the pension's protected. Their IRA is protected. And if he can't pay American Express, that's, they can't do anything to him. I mean, if they were to, I don't know what his business, we would go over this with him. Now, technically, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act applies to consumer debt, not business debt. Okay. But your protection, your income being protected from a collector who gets a judgment, it doesn't matter what the debt owed is for it, whether it's a consumer or a business debt. It doesn't matter. So we'll be able to answer his question, and he'll be fine. We'll go over it with him. Oh, Rosgirl asked about this picture right up here. Um, yeah, that's Roosevelt signed the Social Security bill. Um, where would we be without it? We would be in a mess without it. Thank goodness for Social Security. Let me see it. Oh, yeah, here's the picture. I got a mental block. See this sweet lady over here? Perkins, first labor secretary, the first a female cabinet secretary in American history. She was Roosevelt's Secretary of Labor when he was governor of New York, and when he became president, he asked her to, Frances Perkins, he asked her to join his cabinet as his labor secretary, and she said only under one condition, that you let me put together some legislation to protect seniors and disabled workers. And Roosevelt said, yeah, I'll give you that. You do that as long as it's not a dole. It has to be someone that works for it. And so that's the originations of workers' compensation and Social Security. And the bill was passed in 1935, and it's been a saving. I remember when I was in high school, I had a class, and I had asked my grandfather, who was born in 1900, about Roosevelt. And I remember going to his little trailer house and talking to him. And I asked him about Roosevelt. My grandpa, like, I don't know if he's Democrat or Republican, but when I asked him about Roosevelt, he teared up and he said, he saved us. My grandpa would know. In 1936, he had 6 kids and was struggling to make a living to support a family with 6 kids. Yeah. What did they do before Social Security? They had families in churches, but mostly families. But once the Depression hit, uh, the fathers and the mothers had enough time feeding their kids, let alone their parents. So it became a really big problem. So Social Security isn't going anywhere. It's here to stay. If you're ever worried about that, don't be worried about it. If Social Security goes away, this whole country goes under. So our lawmakers will not allow that to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen. Okay, so how before foreclosure on your home is 60 days? I don't understand what the question. You may want to type it out in better detail. But let me go on. although we're running out of time. Person calls it from California. We have 52,000 in credit card debt. We struggle to make payments, and with the continuing rise in the cost of living, there is no way we can pay this off. Our combined monthly income from Social Security is $4,400. Rent and utilities are $2,400. I have an annuity that I'll be receiving a yearly payment of around, $10,000 in August. But that's only going to go for 2 years, and then it's done. Would appreciate any help and suggestions you could provide us. Well, you can stop paying the $52,000 in credit card debt. Your Social Security is protected. You get $4,500 a month times 2 would be $9,000, and your bank account's protected. You have an annuity under California law. That annuity is going to be protected, so you can stop paying the credit card debt. Now, you could keep paying it, and then at some point you're going to realize that the money's you're just not going to be able to pay it, and so I would say the time between now and then, that money that you paid on the credit card debt is kind of like wasted money when you could have stopped sooner than later. Now, I'm not telling anyone they shouldn't try to pay their debts if they can afford to. I want you to do that. But if you can't afford to, if you're having to cut back on basic needs, then you can stop. Lawmakers protected your income for a reason. They don't want seniors to go without. They want seniors to have enough money for food, medicine, and utilities and basics. Okay? I had both business and personal Amex in there, both on my credit report. Well, I think a business would be on your credit report if it's an assumed business name, but a corporation might not be on your credit report. Okay, but you could have guaranteed it. But they could put it on there. People put things on when they're not entitled to do it. But if it was a personal card under your business name, then yeah, they could report it on your credit report. I have an American Express card. I'm trying to think if it's on my credit report. I think it is, and it's a corporation card, so maybe I was wrong. Maybe it is on there. I'm being sued by Barclays Bank, Delaware, for a credit card by JetBlue. I'm 81 years old. Help me. What do I do? And he put, help me. What do I do in all caps? Don't need to do anything. I mean, contact helps. We'll talk to you about what your options are. If you owe the debt, you don't need it. You can stop paying it. Your Social Security, your pension's protected. You don't need to go to court. You're going to be fine. So I guess that's our message we tell seniors is that you're going to be fine. So if you've been listening to me and you've got questions, be sure and call us. Toll free 855-435-7787. I don't want you to worry. Okay, you can always call and talk to us. Most people that find out about help, they call us maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times before they decide they want our help. Never any pressure. And we don't turn anyone away that needs our help. Okay? That qualifies for help. We don't turn anyone away. So thank you for listening today. It looks like it's been an hour. I will see you tomorrow at the same time. Please press the like button. If you can, subscribe to our channel, and share what helps does with others. God bless, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.